hope you're all having a wicked day. Welcome back to the videos. I got a gimbal. It's not working. Screw it. That's a bit better. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wicked day. Welcome back to the videos. It's a beautiful day here in Melbourne today, and beautiful days mean we get to work on the beautiful RX7. You might notice we've made a few little changes to the front of the car. Nothing too crazy. I put some new lights in there. I'll quickly show you guys the ones that we took off. They weren't so great. There you go. You can see she's a little bit messed up. She's got some cracks in it, and I've had stickers over it to stop it from cracking any further. So I finally wedged my hand down in between the lights and put in the new combination lamps. They look sick, improve the look of the car so much. And the second bit, I'm kind of undecided on whether I want to leave it like this, but I painted the bottom lip yellow. Don't worry, I still have the carbon one sitting down here at the moment. The yellow's looking good. However, I kind of don't know whether I like it with the black TEs and the side skirts and everything else as well. Kind of just needs something dark at the front, whether that's the license plate or something different, but I honestly don't think that it looks very good down here. So we might pull this off today, but first of all, we're gonna have some more fun with some coolant, and not because the car is broken. First time I've ever played with an FD and the car's not been broken. I'm gonna show you guys a massive list of parts that we have tucked away that we have had for a couple of months, and I think you guys are all really gonna like it. Alrighty guys, Zach from the future here. I want to give you guys a quick update. Unfortunately, I did lose a lot of my footage from this video in my SD card. It's all corrupted, so the whole midsection of this video is all a little bit jumbled all over the place. But it completely deleted everything in terms of the parts that we're going to be putting on this car. So I'm going to quickly run you through everything so that way I can properly inform you as to everything we put on the RX7. Alright, so most of the parts on this video that we are going to be using is all provided to us from PT Motorsports. You guys might remember him from the can gauge that we used in the last FD. It's been one of my longest running sponsors, and yes, once again, we did choose to go with the best can gauge you can possibly get, which is the MFD15. You can use my code down below and go check out his website for 5% off the MFD15, which I honestly think is the best can gauge you can possibly get in the entire world. It has saved my bacon so many times, not only in this car right here, but the old car as well. They are just absolutely incredible gauges. And not only that, but they can also be used as an IO expander or an input-output expander. So what that means is in this video right here, not only are we going to be installing a can gauge, we are also going to be installing oil pressure and temp, as well as coolant pressure and fuel pressure at the same time. And that's all gonna be through the MFD15 can gauge. So if you guys do wanna go out and you love what you see in the video, definitely go out and check out the MFD15 from PT Motorsports. As I said, the link is down below, as well as a coupon code, which you guys can all use to get a mad discount on anything on the PT Motorsports website. Now, not only that, we also installed a wideband in this thing because this thing has a Heltec Elite 2000 and no wideband, no additional sensors. So we're gonna be utilizing that Elite 2000 and we're putting a wideband in it today. So it's a massive thank you to Heltec. They didn't sponsor me, but they got it to me super quick, so I'm stoked with that. If anything, Ataka Garage actually helped me out with that because I work there, so cheers, man. And also, we're doing a full wiring harness in this thing thanks to PT Motorsports. He made an incredible harness for us, so you guys are going to see in this next clip. It's going to show you everything that we used. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy it. Hopefully I help you guys out with some wiring on your cars today, and yeah, carry on with past Zach. Okay guys, so right behind me is the entire setup for all the wiring we're going to do to this car to completely transform the way that we protect this thing. So this is the simplest and easiest way that I could probably explain this, and it is all on the ground right here. So showing you guys all that wiring, it is actually incredibly simple. So first of all, what we're going to do, I'll quickly grab out the gauge so I can kind of explain how everything's going to work. Alright, so first of all, we will start up at the ECU. So just pretend the ECU is sitting up this one right here, and this is going to be the passenger footwell of the car. So we're going to have the Heltec wideband sitting in there, and that's going to be talking to the wideband sensor. So that's going to be talking to itself. That's going to be going directly into the ECU. That is going to be going into the ECU via this CAN plug right here. And then we just have to wire a positive and negative. So that's going to be really simple to set up. So that's going to plug into that. Excluding all that, coming over to this side here. So this one right here is going to be the can gauge, and this is going to be sitting just up on the pillar of the driver's side. So this can gauge is going to be connected via all these cables right here. And these cables are going to run down and into the engine bay. So we have our oil, pressure and temp, our fuel pressure, and our coolant pressure. That's all going to be talking directly to the can gauge right here. So this one right here in the can gauge is actually just going to be an updating USB thingy, so we don't have to worry about that whatsoever. The other thing we have to plug into this one right here is a little tiny toggle switch so we can change settings around on that. However, this cable here is the most important cable of the entire lot. So this Deutsch connector right here is going to plug directly into this, and this is a CAN connector that goes directly from the gauge straight into the wideband, which is going to act as a CAN bus. And then that is going to then be talking to the ECU through this. So another probably doesn't make sense for a lot of people, but yeah, pretty much this gauge right here is going to be talking directly to the ECU via the CAN network. Now that is going to be able to share data back and forward between these two, and that right there is what we're going to use to get our values for all of our sensors in the ECU. We can set up engine protection and everything else as well. So if you guys can imagine, the wire band is going to be coming into the engine bay probably about here or so. All these wires right here are going to come into the engine bay probably about there or so, I dare say, something along those lines. So that is probably the easiest way that I can explain it to you guys. When you step back and just look at it, it's really, really simple, but now we have to pretty much transfer all of this into the car. Super, super simple. How good? All right, first thing we're going to be doing is putting in the wideband sensor. And we're pretty much going to build everything around from that, because the only thing that's going to change the way that this all works is if this cable is a little bit too short. So I'm going to chuck a jack stand under there, just in case. And the wideband is going to be going directly into that. I really hope this comes off easily. I hope this isn't a pain in the ass. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. Well, perfect. Now just gotta hope that bung's the same size, which I'm pretty sure it will be. They're all pretty much standard O2 sizing. Perfect. Well, I was hoping to use this bung right here, but I don't think that'll fit. It's a little bit too long, the sensor, before it hits the chassis. So that's not gonna work. We'll try again, see if we can get to the top one there. I was really hoping that one was going to work, because then I can, yeah, oh well, we'll work this out. Alright, so it wasn't too bad, kind of makes it easy because it was already loose. So, I don't know if you guys can see down there, there is the port for the original O2 sensor. We're just going to tap straight into that one right there. So, it's been nice and easy. I kind of just used the leverage of the wires to screw it in most of the way, so that way it's so much easier. So, it's a little bit of a challenge, but with 2 hands and no camera, I think we should be mint. So I'll put the camera down, we'll plug that one in, and yeah. Oof. Alrighty, so I'm just about to cut this day short. We'll probably go into day 2 very, very soon. However, one thing I do want to quickly point out on these cars especially is they have this really horrible line that goes from the clutch slave to the reservoir. I'll show you what I mean. This right here, I had on the last car as well. I don't know if you guys can really see it that well, but it crumbles and it gets really bad over time, and it's actually started to burn through right there. The worst thing is the position of this line right here is right here, which is right above the dump pipe. So if you guys do actually see this line right here and it's frayed, please, for the love of God, change it out with something good, so that way you don't burn your car down. Another reason why FD's burn down so often. Alrighty, so now we have the wideband in position. So I'm going to put all the piping back, and I'm going to route the lines up and through, and then I can get to wiring up all the rest of it, sort of working out exactly where I want to put it. We might even do the FPR 800 next, because I think that might be a bit of fun to mount up. So let's do that. Alright, so just built the fuel pressure reg. Quickly show you what it looks like. So we have everything sorted. You obviously have your vacuum reference, and then you have your inlet, outlet, and return. And then you also have the sill-tag sensor, which is going to go into the port for the sensor. Now, word of warning, it is very, very, very tight in there. It did start to hit just a little bit, but it was able to tighten up, which is good. It's very close. So just be wary that if there's any difference in tolerances or threads or anything along those lines, it may be pushing it to get in there. You might need like a little tiny hard line or something to go out, or like a 1/8 MPT extension if they even make them. But yeah, as for that, that's all ready to go. So we're going to find a position in the car where we can put this nice and easy to access, and then we can work out exactly where we need our wiring to go. So now we have the wideband and this ready to go. So looks really cool. It's like a little weird alien sort of thing. I like it. All right, well, good morning, guys. It is the next morning, and it is freezing at the moment. It is, I believe, 4 or 5 degrees here at the moment. It is cold as hell. But anyway, it's actually Monday. We're going to start work in about 2 hours. Before I do that, I want to sort out some stuff for the FD because I want to go out and get some parts and not have it sit around for too long like this. So I've taken up the entire garage just to do everything basically. But the FD currently, I was having a look at this hose right here. This is supposed to be like a 48. It's supposed to be like a 45 mil diameter, and it's expanded to like 50. So this hose may be swollen. I'm not quite sure just yet. But either way, the only way I'm really going to find out whether that part there, this one right here, it's the correct size. It's a 48. It's a 38 mil, which is the inside diameter of that hose, supposedly. So we're gonna have to take it all apart, drop the coolant and get it all sorted. But I actually realized yesterday, I've been told with these cars, especially in regards to the coolant system, that unless the low light or the low level buzzer is on, you shouldn't really look at them because you can introduce more air to the system if you go and just check it. So the low light buzzer has never been on. And I know that it works because when you turn the accessories on, the light lights up. So I know that the light works, and I just know that this thing has never run out of water, which is good. Unlike my old car. So I've never actually looked at it, but looking today, the coolant in there is clear. So whether it's just distilled, I'm not quite sure. Either way, you should never run just distilled water in these things. Rotaries right here have a horrible issue where basically you have to make sure that you're 100% always making sure that there is anti-corrosives inside of that coolant. So whether it's being put in with tap water, we're not quite sure, but either way, it's brown in there at the moment, which is not good. With these rotaries, what can happen is around that, like around the block sort of area, they can actually corrode and then start to chip off and like rust away inside the housing. And you always need to make sure you have that small gap between the water jacket and the coolant seal, because if you start taking away that little tiny gap, you can start to introduce heat or hot spots in the coolant seal, and that's when they can start failing. So this engine right here has about 30,000 kilometers on it. So hopefully we've caught it early. Make sure that we do a full coolant flush on this thing. I'm about to go down to Repco right now, go grab all the distilled water I possibly can, and coolant flush and some more coolant for this thing as well, so we can do a full flush while we're here doing this right now, and hopefully we shouldn't have any more issues and we can really try and clean out this block. But yeah, hopefully it is distilled water and hopefully it's not as bad as I think. So yeah, either way, we caught it early, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, hopefully this 38 mil hose fitting I got works, because this is supposedly 38 mil inside. So we're most likely just going to chop it right there. I can point the sensor straight down and yeah, make it look as stock as humanly possible. So let's do it. Bruh, that's not good. That's so dirty. God damn it. Yeah, look, not ideal in the slightest, eh? Ow. A week later, and we're back into it. We're back into it. So I was putting the coolant sensor in. Good news is I actually got the correct size fitting. Bad news is I had to flush out the coolant system about 17 million times to try and get all the crap out of the water. It looked like it had just been filled up with regular water. And if you guys ever need a really good reason to never put water or regular water inside of a car, you should have spent the last week bleeding this car. I'm the king of bleeding FDs right now. The absolute king. Anyway, we're here. All we need to do, there's green stuff in the coolant now, which is sick. And I've also gone through and I've routed all the wires at the moment, so that way we can try and continue on this video in the easiest way possible. So originally I had everything laid out right here so you guys could see exactly how that all works. So we're going to run through that exact same setup inside the car right now. Alrighty, welcome to the FD. I'm going to quickly open this thing up right here. So down here we have a Haltech Elite ECU. So you guys can see that we're currently connected to my computer, and then we're running out into that little wire thing that I told you about, which connects it to the wideband controller right here. So this is the first step of the puzzle. The wideband controller then connects to that Deutsch connector right there. And if we come around to the front of the car, quickly just go through here. You guys can see it comes out the firewall just down there, and then it runs around the back and into the wideband oxygen sensor down there. So that is the first step of the entire wiring process all completed. So coming back from the wideband sensor all the way back down through here, back down into the car, comes into the wideband sensor right here. So the wideband will then act as a CAN bus. So this wire right here then goes around and into my CAN gauge. So I'm very stoked at how the CAN gauge actually fit up this time. I opted to go for not the triple gauge setup in the center of the car. I opted to go for a nice sleek look with minimal destruction of this interior. So we'll jump in the car and I'll show you guys what we did. So now when you're sitting in the car, this is all you see. That little tiny gauge right there is everything that you'll see, and it will provide me with probably more data than all of this right here combined. It's sick. So that CAN cable runs up through the interior right here, up underneath my dash, and you can see my feet down there. It then comes up the side right here into this, and then it connects in to the back of the dash right. Then it connects into the back of the gauge right here. So the gauge I have sitting in its 52mm holder, and it's got some double-sided tape on there so I can't shift around or move around. And then this right here is that universal gauge holder right there, and that's just double-sided taped with like a flexi mount onto the pillar right here. So if I ever need to get rid of this and that happens to destroy anything, it's not going to destroy the dash. It's only going to be a replacement pillar, which I'm very happy about. So on the back of this, I have the little rotary dial connected so I can control the CAN gauge. It's pointed directly at me, which is really nice. So from there, we then have the sensors that have to connect through this because it is an input-output expander. So those cables right there then run out the back of the dash, back down here, and go through the firewall. So I took the fender off. It's only a couple of 10mm bolts, but the wires then come out of here, then come up and over into the engine bay right there. And this one right here is my fuel pressure, which I haven't exactly got up just yet. I've decided I'm not going to put the FPR 800 in until it's ready to go for a tune, and there's a few reasons why. For one, the base pressure could be different. Even if I set it up at 40 PSI, that one right there in the car is in a horrible location, in its stock location. I have all the fittings and everything else to do it. However, I'm just unsure because it is a 20-year-old part that's sitting in that car right there, whether it, could have degraded over time, whether it's still, doing the same thing as what it did from factory. The car is currently tuned on that pressure right there. So if I go ahead and I up the pressure, then yeah, I could end up doing something to the tune. We might have to, and I'm not really into, going and getting it retuned just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get it retuned, but when I get it retuned, I'll get them to put the FPR 800 in there, and all the wiring's all there, ready to go. So through the firewall, coming up into here, we then have our coolant pressure sensor going down to the bottom of that hose right there, which is the top radiator hose. We then have another cable that runs around the back here, across the top of the slave, and it goes down to our oil pressure and oil temp. So you guys could probably see that sandwich plate sitting pretty down there, and the sensor just jumps off the back of it. So that's all in there, ready to go. So now I guess the next thing we need to do is to put the entire car back together, put the airbox back in, make sure everything's all situated and nice, and then can get it looking like an FD again because it looks a little bit sad. Oh, poor thing. Alrighty, if I've done everything correctly, gauge should light up. There we go. Perfect. So it's not displaying any data just yet. We have to set it up in the CAN network, so I'll quickly jump on, do that right now. Should be golden after we set it all up. Beautiful. All right, so I'm just going through setting up the wideband because absolutely nothing is set up for it at the moment, so it's not even telling it, like it's got power, but it's not giving it any CAN signal whatsoever. So we're going to quickly upload this map that's custom made for us by Mr. Uncle Huss Auto. I'll leave a link to it down below if you guys are in the Sydney area and need anything done. Hussein was the one that helped me start the Bridgeport FD last time. Just, guy's an absolute madman. He's helped me out so much, an incredible guy. So yeah, anyway. He's done a fair few things to the car, so we're going to import the sensors, we're going to import the fuel tuning, ignition tuning, and the engine functions as well as the transmission. Looks like he's cleared up that fault for us. So beautiful. All right, what we'll do, we'll import the selected items, and that'll import it to the map. So now we should have our wideband all set up, and just cycle the car. Alrighty, so it looks like the wideband wiring is a little bit different. Wideband 02 input. Alright, so it's been a little bit of time. I am still familiarizing myself with the NSP software, but basically I've just gone through. I've changed, I think Hussein set up my CAN network like it was on my last car, so that way it was all through the main harness. However, I just routed it all through the auxiliary port this time. So I went through the system, I sorted that all out. So now, fingers crossed, we should just be able to start the car and everything's doing its job. So we've also set up the PT Motorsports gauge. So at the moment, it's currently giving us a warning to say that our coolant temp is too low to start driving. So yeah, we'll warm the car up. We'll make sure that everything on the CAN gauge is doing its job. I haven't set up any of the sensors through the CAN gauge just yet. I'm gonna have to have a chat to Pete. We're going to have a chat to PT Motorsports just to see how exactly to do that. But as for now, I'm just going to bring it out onto the driveway so I can work on it out there because my garage is a mess. So I'm going to clean this all up. But first of all, we're going to just pull it out. We're going to run it up. And yeah, can also bleed the coolant while we're at it. So put this down here. I've made an absolute mess of this thing. All right, ECU's all saved and reset. Let's quickly jump in the car. My computer decided to die. That's alright. At least I have this little thing up here. Alrighty. Fingers crossed it does everything it needs to do. Alrighty, looking like it's doing everything. The coolant temp warning, I don't think I set a limit to how low it is, because that's kind of annoying. At least I can see it growing. But I might even do it at like 45 degrees so I know how long I need to warm the car up for. But beautiful. Oh, it reset everything. Of course it did. NSP. Thank you. Beautiful. So I don't know if you guys can see this. Probably my polarized filter. Anyway, you can see that my wideband's working. We're currently sitting at a 12 AFR, which is very fat for an idle, but either way, that's okay. We should notice as the coolant temp goes up, which is this one right here, it's currently sitting at 26. We should see that slowly rise up more towards 14. But RX7 is just idle like that, no worries at all. So we're sitting at about 1300 RPM. Everything's looking real good though. So beautiful. Absolutely stoked.